Hi, it's Anna Haferman. Today I want to show you how to make a little knitted snowflake motif on the LK150 or any flatbed knitting machine. These are hand manipulated. They're fairly fast and they make a nice little, you could do an afghan if you made a lot of them and figured out some way to put them together, or just put it on the tree or the mantle or whatever you like. So anything you want to do, you can do that with those. They are kind of they're easier than they look. So before I start, I want to thank everyone who has given to the Buy Me a Coffee, who has liked and joined my channel as a member, and everyone who has subscribed and liked and commented. I really appreciate it. So let's get into this. So we need 50 needles. So I'm going to go from 25 to 25. And this is 8 groups of 6 needles. So there's 8 points and each point is 6 needles. One of them gets split and sewed up so it matches. So I'm going to do waste yarn, and then I'm going to do what looks like a crocheted cast on, but I'll actually latch it up at the end. So I'm going to knit that row and then hang the comb, and I need exactly 1 piece of comb. I always hang the comb that way. It just works better for me, and it hangs on there better. So then for the next row, I want to remember to get that last number 50, 25, because I definitely want to have 50 needles here. It will make all the difference. So if you had 49 needles, it's not going to work out that well. So just make sure when you push the alternate needle back, make sure you bring it back for your second row. Okay, so this last row, I want to make sure that's at tension 9. And it's a little hard to push when you're on tension 9 because it's, I don't know. So that's the waste yarn. I want to cut that and get rid of it now. I don't need it. And then I'm going to thread my main yarn. Now, for this, the outer color, which I'm going to call color A here, is going to be on the right. Color B will be on the left. And you could put the white, if you wanted the white on the outside, put it over here, call it color A. That's just to make the directions easy. So color A on the right will be on the outside. And obviously if you put the white there and did everything the same way, the white would be on the outside. So it would just be inverted. I like how they look with the, I like how they look with a darker color on the outside, but either way is fine. So I'm going to start now. So I'm going to thread my color A in the carriage on the left, starting on the left here. I don't always start on the left. My first row, I have to do a few things before I start. So I want to put the carriage to hold. I want this first row to be at tension 9. So that's that on the carriage. I want to set the row counter to 0. Okay, and then I want to mark out where my stitches are going to go. So this first one's going to be an end needle, and the last one's going to be an end needle, but I'm going to number all the stitches. So I'm going to go 2, I'm skipping the 1 here, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I started with 2. I'm not numbering that seaming needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, my hand's in the way there. So I'm just numbering each needle 1 through 6, except for that first one I started on 2, and there's a reason for that. It's kind of hard to go into until you sort of see it. So I'm just going to number 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then that's going to be that 1 that I skipped over there. And that's a seaming needle, so I'm not going to number that. So then I'm ready to go. And I want to make sure I have a little bit of tail so I can seam it up at the end. I'm at tension 9, row 0, and I'm on hold. So I'm going to knit 1 row at tension 9. And I got a little too close. So now I want to weight down my edges. And for row 1 and 2, all I'm going to do is go to, well, first I'm going to tension 6. So I'm on stitch size 6. I'm going to knit 2 rows. And this is worsted weight yarn. You can use whichever weight of yarn. I find they end up a little thin if you use DK, so I'm using worsted. So it's a little harder to push the carriage, but okay, so that's my first 2 rows at tension 6. Now, row count 3, I'm going down to 5 and a dot over here. So I'm at 5 and a dot. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what I did. So I'm at 5.5. And I'm going to take the yarn out of the carriage and park it on the right-hand side. Then I'm going to put the carriage over here on the left and pick up this color B, which is the white, thread that. And I moved the carriage over rather than starting over here because for this pattern, it just works out better this way. Otherwise, you end up crossing yarn and it just works out a lot better this way. So now what I want to do is go take my number 1 needles and put them in hold. And then knit a row. And the next row, I just need to knit, but first I want to weave in this tail so I don't have to do it at the end. So I'm just grabbing it, getting it in the hook. I'm not knitting it through, I'm just putting it in the hook. And then I'm going to knit back. So that caught that tail in there, and that way I'm not going to have to weave it in at the end, and I could even cut it right now. So that's, now I'm on row 5. All I need to do is knit. And then row 6, I want to go down to tension 5. Tension 5, can you see it? No. And then I'm going to put these number 1s to upper work. My number 1 needles go to upper work. And then I knit. So that knit those in, and you can see this already forming the scallops for the pattern. So that's where I cast on, and then I'm going to latch it up at the end so it looks different. Then this is where I held the needles. So those little scallops are starting already. So let's see, I'm on row 7. I'm still there. Now I need to go to color A. So I'm taking the white yarn out over here, parking it on that side. I'm going to move the carriage over here. The red yarn's coming from here, and I'm going to thread it. And again, the reason I'm doing this is it just works out best this way. So 7 color, and all I need to do is knit 1 row. Now the yarn's coming from the carriage here, but I need to switch to color B, so I'm going to park the red over here and thread color B. On row 8. Okay, now this is a row where you do a little bit of work. So on row 8, you put the 4s in hold. And then you move the 2s. Can you see the numbers? So see, I put all the number 4s in hold. Now I take the number 2s and go to the number 3s. So I go 2 to 3, 6 to 5, 2 to 3, and 6 to 5. So what I'm doing is moving those stitches in toward the that held number 4 needle. So trying to avoid hitting the camera, but what's happening is it's making me very awkward. And it's probably going out of focus when the tool comes up there. I'm not sure. But so we go 6 to 5. So really you're just moving the stitches toward that needle. And that's it for that. Then, so we're ready. All I need to do now is make sure that where I transferred from, I push them all the way back to position A. So I should have those in A, these in B, and those in D. So non-working, working, holding. And then I knit. Row 9, all I need to do is knit back. Okay, so that's the end of color B. So now I'm going to cut it. That's all I need of color B. So I'm just going to cut it and take it out of the feeder, and I'm also going to weave it in because I don't want to I don't want to do these tails at the end. So I'll take the A yarn, which was parked over there, move it over here because it ended up over here. So I want to knit from over here. And this is the reason it would have crossed because I only had that one single row. So now I put these number 4 needles to upper working position and I knit. Okay, now this is row 11. This is going to be our last row. So now what I'm going to do is take the number 4 needles. I'm actually going to cut that tail I wove in so it doesn't distract. Go take all the number 4 needles and transfer back to the number 3 needle. So what essentially will happen here is I'll have stitches on every other needle. So these are pretty easy to do. There's only 11 rows and most of them are just knit. There's not that many things you have to do each row. Like a couple rows you have to do some hand manipulation. So I should have a stitch on every other needle. When I get over here, there's those 2 needles. I'm going to take the seaming one, move it over one to the right so that I still have that spacing. Now what I want to do is go to tension 7, and then I'm going to put these needles into work, and I'm going to put all the instructions in the description. I believe that I may have not done the right tension on the last couple rows, so just look in there and I'll have the right tension numbers. I think I should have been at 4.5 for the last two, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. I'm at tension 7. Make sure I have all those needles back in work. And I'm going to knit. And this is a bigger row, so it's just a little bit different. There we go. Okay, so now what happened here is I have loops on every other needle, or just kind of floats on every other needle, and then I have stitches. So the ones where I have the floats, that triangle, which ends up being the even numbered needles, plus this one that's not numbered, and then I'm just going to push those forward. So that's all the ones with the loops on it. And I say loops, but they're really, let's call them floats. So it's just a V, right? So then pull them all the way forward, push them all the way back, and then pull, and you get that long row of big stitches. So then all I need to do now is sew everything off. And that will end the knitting portion of the evening. So I will take the yarn, and I'm actually going to sew off from the right, even though I'm coming from the left. So I want like 2 lengths of yarn so I can go back and forth. And I just do it this way because I feel like it gives a better, it cinches up better in the middle if it's not going from this stitch that pulls that stitch too much. So that's why I do it that way. And so, but first thing I want to do here is, maybe not the first thing, but one of the things I want to do here is go to this stitch. What happens when you cinch this up? So I'm going to sew those off, and then at the end I'll pull it so it cinches up like when we do a hat. One thing that happens is this stitch kind of gets distorted, and I don't want it to, so I'm going to go and just go back through that purl bar so it kind of anchors it a little bit. Maybe go one more time. So it's not going to get too short, which makes it, when you cinch up, it makes this circle kind of distorted. So I've done a bunch of these and just tried to figure out ways to make it look as good as I can. That was that tail I wove in. It just wanted to come out. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go over here and go through the front of each stitch and sew it off onto the needle. Okay. And this doesn't take long. I just go through each one. And my finger is black because of the washable marker. It washes off plastic really well. It's harder to wash it off your skin, so it'll come off. It's just, I probably smudged it or something. So go through the front of each one. And of course, always mark your bed with washable marker rather than permanent marker. So we'll take all that off. Take that off, take that off. And this is what it's going to look like when you take it off. So it doesn't really look like much yet. So first what I want to do, this is the top that's going to get cinched up. See those big loops? And then this is the bottom where I'm going to finish this edge just by looping it through itself. All right, so let's see. I'm going to pick the first little bar on here. I want to get the red stitch that's closest to all the yellow. The yellow's waist yarn. Then I want to get those little bars and pull them through one by one. So what I'm doing is the old stitch is behind the latch of the hook. The new stitch is in the latch, and then I just pull it through. And this, once you get the hang of it, is pretty fast. So, and I find like the crocheted cast on is really hard for me to get a even one that doesn't tighten up. If you're really good at crocheted cast on, you could have done it that way. So that's all I'm doing. And it doesn't take long. These are fun to do because it's such a small thing. It only uses, I don't know how much yarn, but not very much. I mean, I've already done, what, 3 out of this 50-gram ball, so you could get quite a few. You could do a few a day, and then eventually you'd have enough for a nice afghan or scarf or something. I still have to figure out a way to put them together. So if you can think of a good way, let me know. If you're a crocheter, you could do that. I know how to crochet, but I haven't tried this with crochet yet. So then I'm going to cut the opposite end. It sticks on my thumb. So this yellow is waste yarn. I cut the end stitch, and then I'm going to go on this side where the tail is. So I went to the opposite side of the tail and just start pulling. And that one broke, but most of the time it comes right out. There we go. So that's the waste yarn's gone. Now you see I have this nice little crocheted edge, and I can pull it a little bit and make it look good. So then this is the center, which I'm going to end up pulling that to cinch it up. But before I do that, I want to sew this seam so that it matches up nicely. Because basically what's supposed to happen is this matches up in such a way that it's hard to see where the seam is from that side. It's actually right, it's right there. But you want this to kind of follow the same line. Okay, so to start, I want to join it here so that it matches up nicely. I'm actually going to go over to this one because that ultimately is going to match up right. So this first row is really kind of in the seam, so you just have to kind of do a little bit guessing. When you sew this, it's a little, it's kind of hard to match it up by looking at going from 2 to 2 like we normally do in mattress stitch, or like I normally do, because there's extra yarns we carried up, and there's tuck stitches in there, so you really just sort of have to do it by eye. Okay, so that's how I want that. And now I want this to match up. This is actually not a stitch I want in there. I want that in the seam. I want it to look like this. It's hard to see what's going on until you get there. So I'm just sort of going to try to match it up visually rather than by using different rules. So here is where I want it to look good. So this stitch here is above those. That's what I want it to do, like that. So I just want to, whatever I do, make sure however I sew it, it lines up. It doesn't really matter like which ones you're picking up, as long as you're kind of making sure they're in the right place. If that makes any sense to anybody. Yeah, something like that. So you see how that stitch, they're all sort of on a different level. So that's all I'm doing. I'm really mattress stitching, but it doesn't look like it normally does. That's what I want it to do. And I know it doesn't look like anything yet. So until you start, this was my my gathering stitch. Now I just want to do this so it creates a circle in the middle, and that's what I'm doing there. Then I'm going to take it. This is that same one I pulled. I'm going to rethread it. So I pulled it as tight as I could, and then I'm going to go back through those stitches. I'm not going through the back. See, I'm not going through the back. I'm just going in that first, the top of those stitches. And that just kind of beefs it up a little bit. But really what you're trying to do here is make it visually pleasing. So I'm pulling it, and then this one, that's still the seaming one. I'm going to just pull it to the middle eventually. Probably going to go around one more time here. So I'm just going through those long stitches a couple times. So we're almost done here. So the sewing up is requires a little bit of precision, but you'll be able to do it. So then I pull it as tight as I can, or as I want it. Now right here, that was the one I seamed with. I think, no, that's the one I just pulled around. Okay. So then I can take this one that I seamed with, and if you have like a little place in here where you can see a little white, just take it back there and put it in there, and it kind of will disappear. So now when I steam this, it's going to I'm just going to steam it so that that pops out the way I want it. So now what I can do is take this one, go through the middle, and this one, so you're just kind of making this work. So sometimes it's easier than others. So then once you have that done, you can tie these two together. And then you steam it. And I'll show you the steaming next. Now these, you can leave these long if you think you might want to attach it to something, or if you wanted to weave the tails in, you could. I usually just cut them like that. It's whatever you want to do. It doesn't really matter that much. So now I'm going to steam this, and I have this Conair steamer that I got, which works pretty well. I'm just going to turn it on and get it going. This is a wool steaming ironing pad. You don't need that really. You need some sort of steam iron, or if you have a stand steamer, you can use that. I really like this because it puts off a lot of steam. So it's fast. And this is acrylic, so it's going to flatten, and basically it will kill it. So it's not going to ever, it would never come back like this. With wool, you can steam flat, and I think it would come back, but either way. So this is going to work for this. So I have, all right, yeah, it's ready to go. See how much steam there is. And so all I'm going to do is just hold it above it. I'm not actually touching it to it, and you can kind of see it relaxing there. If I touch it to it, it will really flatten it out, and I don't want to do that. So once I get it going, it flattens it out pretty fast. I'll go over it a couple more times probably. I'm really just holding it over. If I put that on there, it's probably not going to burn it, but it will like make everything look too flat. So I still want it to look like yarn. Just holding it over there. And I still want my steam coming out. Just as much steam as I listen to that. Anyway, it works great. I will put a link for that, one of those or something similar, and one of these if you want to look at that. So that's it. You can make it a little more round. You could block it if you wanted to. With acrylic, it's probably going to be a lot easier just to steam it. So that's it. And if you like my videos, please like and subscribe, and look in the description for the links and the instructions.